All right, so looking at our sphere project, put this little image in here, and it's not necessarily the best image because these lines look conical, and what I would suggest is probably trying to represent uh, a light bulb as opposed to, say, sunlight. I'm going to approach this as sunlight, but I thought it was a good image just to give you some idea of what's going on, and what some of the things you can look at is the lines help you understand where the light is. Also, you'll notice that the lines sort of define where the shadow would be. Um, the highlight for where the light would be, the shadow where the face normals of the sphere point away from the uh, the light, which um, call the form shadow. And then here, the projection shadow, or the shadow that's being projected on another surface. You'll also notice that in this case, it's showing a reflection coming from here and reflecting up on the ball. Some images you'll see that reflection coming up towards this direction. I think if we go back and look at the other image that came with this, the objectives, this is a more uh, this actually looks computer generated to me, but it might be something else. But again, you can see that reflection coming off the table. And this is multiple lights, so you can see that there's two shadow casts. So there's probably two lights happening here. You can see the sphere is actually reflecting onto the table as well here, so you get this like extra light area. Um, Most of the background's blurry. I think that's kind of cool, and also the shadow gets a bit blurry. So these are just two examples that I'm showing you in the class. Here it's just kind of going ahead, and I just want to just point out how some of the same things are happening in this image. We kind of created some lines and a sphere, and I'm not shading it maybe into the exact same level, but we'll do this together. I just want to sort of show you kind of where we're at. Um, and with Photoshop, what I think is important um, is trying to, first of all, notice that with digital imaging, digital painting, digital processes, things that we're going to be trying to learn with traditional media, it's not going to be the same, but probably a lot of you have already made a shaded sphere before. But when we do it digitally, we get new tools and new methodologies. So there's a little bit of unlearning what you learned before to really generate the exact same image in a way. So um, this isn't just about tools and Photoshop, but a methodology for approaching digital media in general. So notice how I'm trying to kind of take advantage of this tool as opposed to traditional media. So let's start by making a new project. So I'm going to go to Photoshop and I'm going to say File, New. And if you didn't already have Photoshop open and you just opened Photoshop now, you would come to this same sort of dialog box. Um, Now, I can't say for sure if you're going to open up exactly right here. Um, Obviously, it's showing me up at the top here, recent. Um, what I'm interested in is some form of a horizontal style image. I was using this one, the 1920 by 1080, which is a common television aspect ratio. But sizes, I'm not so worried about. I don't want you guys to worry too much about them yet. We'll talk more and more about pixel dimensions and pixels per inch, but right now the main thing would be probably that you're picking something that's 300 ppi. And that's going to give you a density for painting that's really important for what we're doing right now. In terms of the dimensions, I'm not so too concerned, but I'm using 1920 by 1080. Let's come out a little bit, and again, you can see these are my recent selections. But I think if I were to go to photo, See if you can find it. Probably film video is gonna, no, let's go art illustration. There we go. I had to click on that show all. So, you know, it's you're gonna have to find that a little bit. You could also just put in the values in here as well, and just type them in: 1920 width, 1080 height, and the resolution at 300. And you know, this will be a good pixel dimension, and especially the resolution is going to be important. And some of you will be really frustrated and worried about this. Try not to worry about this. This is not what I want people worrying about right now. You'll probably get the similar responses for the most part for whatever you set here. Just be really cautious that if you do this, that you are definitely using pixels. Sometimes I've had students do inches here and they're making a 1920 inch image, and you'll find that your brushes will appear to be really small. The computer will lag intensely depending on the power of your computer. That's a really large image. 1920 inches is a very large picture. So just really by default, this was set to pixels, and I'm just gonna say if you do start manually creating these, that you make sure you're using pixels. But for the most part, you'll find one of these default settings, and again, this would probably work fine. But you know, if you want to do 1280 by 720, that's fine. Just make sure that you're using the 300 ppi, not something that's like 720 or 72 rather. So I'm just going to click on create. Cool. So that's creating a new image, and for some of you that might be a bit of a challenge, so take your time there. And you know, again, it's not critical, it's the exact same dimensions, but you can see that it's a horizontal image. It's maybe called landscape, you might say.